All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Siar. I'm the host of the LLC podcast today. It's an honor to introduce listeners to inspiring women that are making a real difference in logistics and supply chain. When in today's podcast, you're going to hear some inspirational stories, both personal and professional challenges our guest has overcome, and how their background has helped to shape who she is today. I want you to join me today in welcoming Liz Williamson. She's with Truckers Against Trafficking. And Liz, I'm just going to jump into you.
Great. Well, thank you, Ms. Sharon, for having me. I'm happy to be here. As Ms. Sharon mentioned, my name is Liz. I work with Truckers Against Trafficking, and it's a nonprofit that's been around since 2009, so quite a few years now. And we focus on bringing education and awareness to trucking, bus, energy, almost any industry that you can think of. If they want to train their drivers and their staff about human trafficking, we train people for what to look for and then what to do about it. Because a part of awareness that I think is key is not just talking about it, but what do I do if I see it? I am personally a survivor of human trafficking. I was first sold by my mom when I was 6 years old. So this cause, it's not just a cause. It's the life that I live and now the restoration that I walk. And I want other people to have that opportunity. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Well, we're glad you're here and we're glad that you're willing to discuss it. Can you tell us a little bit of your story about how it started and then how it led up to what you're doing now?
Sure thing. So I grew up in a family that was deeply involved with pornography and truly impacted by that. And I think that it's always important to share that because people wonder, how do you go from being a child to being looked at as an object? My mom was in love with money more than she was in love with me. And that's just the truth of it.
That's so sad.
It is sad. It is sad. But the role of pornography that it definitely played is that you don't see someone as a human being, you see them as an object. So it made sense, unfortunately, that there were people out there that would pay to see images of me. Now, within the human trafficking movement, we've walked away from the term child pornography because a child can't consent to that. And we call it child sexual abuse material.
Oh, okay. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
so
Yeah.
I just like sharing that new term that we're trying to wrap our heads around. And growing up that way, I still went to school. People wonder, well, why didn't someone see something? Why didn't they say something? Oh my goodness, are the kids in my child's class being trafficked? Our mind goes a lot of places when you think about how young I was when it started.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to tell people is to get to know the parents of the friends of your children, get to know the families, go inside their houses, see what kind of people that they are, but be a safe person for that child. If your child is being educated about sexual abuse, make sure that they know appropriate words for their body parts. Because if I need to disclose about sexual abuse, but I think that my female name for my anatomy is called a cookie, if I tell you someone touched my cookie, but I actually mean vagina, you're going to miss what a child who doesn't have the language and the skill to be able to say something is saying. And then the child's going to feel like, I tried, I failed, I shouldn't talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to bring that up. But
Well,
growing up,
that's good information. And in today's society, with all the social media, they don't just get bombarded or get approached by individuals in person. Don't they also get approached online?
For sure, for sure. We are definitely in a digital world where children are connected at younger and younger ages. And a lot of the time, kids are innocent and trusting. And so when my mom said to me, if you love me, you'll do this, I didn't understand that that was manipulation. I didn't understand that I have a right to say no. I have a right to not be hurt. Didn't understand any of that. So, of course, I loved my mom. What little kid wouldn't love their mom, but then feel very confused about what you're walking into? And obviously it shouldn't have happened to me. We can all agree with that.
Mhm.
But what do you do with the aftermath? Here I am growing up with this giant secret, feeling like I can't tell anyone because my mom will get in trouble or because I don't want to go into foster care. So there's a lot of interesting nuances there, especially so my type of trafficking is called familial trafficking, where a caregiver or parent figure or family figure sells the child. It is still pimp controlled trafficking. It's still a pimp. They just have a different word for it. And recently, Miss Sharon, they have a statistic that 42% of survivors are first introduced to trafficking by a family member. So this problem is bigger than we think.
Now, it is, because I think with movies and television, I thought, when I was kind of doing some research on this, which it's always been on my mind and my heart, that this was just the most horrific thing, that children, women and men go through. But I think in my mind, I'd always thought, I have 5 granddaughters. So I'm always worried about them walking home from school or being alone someplace and just being kidnapped. But that's not the only way, so it's really frightening to me that it could happen at any time. And so I'm very close to my girls, and because of I had 3 boys and now I have 5 granddaughters. And so it's totally different. And I was always fearful for the boys when they were younger too, because you didn't know, you couldn't go to the bathroom with them when they got a little older. And if they were in there too long, I was always one of those moms that was, probably overly cautious, but you just never know. So
you really do.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you know what the current statistics are as far as how many people are being trafficked right now?
So statistics are sometimes hard to come by because it depends on someone reporting. And most survivors, they may not self-report because they don't recognize being trafficked. Now, they've heard of street prostitution. They've heard of different terms. So they may think they're being sexually abused, but they don't know that because money's exchanging hands, that it's actually trafficking. So sometimes that takes a bit. Statistics that I like to rely on, I think it's vastly underreported. Every state in the U.S. has had an incident of trafficking. Our hotline definitely tells us that. I'm comfortable saying that if a runaway kid is on the streets within 48 hours, they're approached by a pimp and a trafficker. That's absolutely something we can stand behind. I hesitate on statistics where it says, oh, this state is number 1 in this category. What it really boils down to is they're the most states with reports. They're the most states where someone is calling the hotline. That's how we get our statistics. So that doesn't include 911 calls. It doesn't include private security calls. So I think that our problems are bigger. The statistic I would like to point out, if you put in your zip code right now in Google, you would have a true opinion of what is trafficking looking like in my area. I think that any place that has adult prostitution, you will have child trafficking, and you do have a trafficking problem because the people in prostitution, only 2% from the research are there because they want to be. So
nobody grows up wanting to go into that. So
no, heck no. And then, what about those in the adult industry? What about the people who work in strip clubs? What about the people who work in cantinas? There's a blurry line where, yes, you're being paid for a job, but trafficking can still happen. What about escort agencies? Trafficking can still happen. Massage parlors.
Yeah, and trafficking actually happens in plain sight, and we don't even realize it, right? Because I know in my neighborhood, about 2 months ago, there was a trafficking ring found in a house. There were 25 women there, not far from an elementary school, not far from a high school. We were really glad, but how many times have I driven down that street and I never knew that anything like that was going on in that house? And I think that happens more than not,
I absolutely think so, because, if I think back to my childhood, Miss Sharon, it was a normal house in a normal neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I still went to school. I still went to church on Sundays. What people could have seen, could have noticed, I didn't make eye contact. I would not look you in the eye for anything. I was ashamed. I felt like the shell of a person. So even if I acted like a bubbly, happy kid, there was a part of the sadness in me that was really deep.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also the kind of kid, I would have latched onto you because you would have been a safe person. You actually probably would have thought that I was annoying and clingy, but it's because my mom wasn't a safe person.
Right.
So if I had had a safe female adult, my goodness, that could have made a huge difference.
So how did you finally get away from it?
Sure. So when I was 18, I decided to go to college. I knew I was smart, and that's one thing that definitely kept me going. I went to college in another state where I knew I had enough money for a one-way plane ticket. And I don't really recommend doing it this way because I didn't have support in place. I didn't have community resources. I didn't have people to fall back on. So here I am going to college, but I become another statistic. I never dealt with my trafficking as a child, just kind of bottled it all up. And so when a man approached me and said, I can make your life more comfortable, Miss Sharon, I knew he was a scumbag and I knew he was a pimp.
Yeah.
That's the simple version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I truly left trafficking at 23, yes, I had graduated college, so I did that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lifetime of pain. So I left in the middle of the night without shoes on, and I ran down the street, and I had blood blisters on the bottom of my feet that big. Wasn't really sure where to go in that town. Wasn't really sure who I could trust and who I couldn't. And I decided to sit down on a bus bench because there was an overhang to keep me out of the rain. And a bus driver pulled up and he says, ma'am, you can get in the bus. It's warm, it's safe, it's dry. And I think he wants to sleep with me. I don't think that he wants to, be kind and be decent, because I wasn't used to decent people. And eventually I get on the bus, I look at him and I say, I'm not going to sleep with you. And he says, I wasn't going to ask you that. I just wanted you to get out of the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, are you hungry? And I look at him like, I still don't want to sleep with you. I don't care if you have food. And he says, ma'am, my wife packed me a sandwich and I'd like you to have it if you'd like it. And so his kindness broke through my walls in a huge way. It wasn't that he had this dramatic thing. It was just he was being kind, and I wasn't used to kindness. I was used to just about anything else. And his name was Paul. He gave me the best sandwich of my life, even though it was the worst. It had olives. I hate olives. And I ended up living at a homeless shelter for about a year. You know what? It was a place for me to put my life back together. So if there are homeless shelters in your community, they see women like me. They absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a bad place for me. I ended up finding a job in California, so I moved to California. That's where I live now. I have been out of trafficking for just about 13 years. And it was a hard road.
Mm-hmm.
I think, there's a sadness that you carry with you because you can't go back to your family. There's a sadness of when I got married, I didn't have my family. Because I couldn't, because they're not safe people. So I am very happy that I'm married, that I have a stable job. I work for Truckers Against Trafficking. I get to use my story to make a difference. That's huge. But, recovering from trafficking, I don't wish it on anyone, but I wish it for every survivor in the sense that I have the opportunity to rebuild my life. But man, it's been hard.
I imagine I can't imagine how hard it is. And I think I told you when we spoke earlier, I was in an abusive marriage, and you carry, it's not the same as what you went through. I'm not saying that, but it is hard, and it's hard to recover because emotionally you carry that baggage with you, I think, forever. Something will trigger it. You think you're fine and then you're not all of a sudden. But I'm really proud of you. I'm so glad that you got out of it and that you're doing something to help others by going through your pain. You know, we talk about it doesn't happen for a reason, but you at least can share your pain with others and hopefully help other people get out of this. So how did you get involved with Truckers Against Trafficking? And tell me a little bit about what their purpose is.
So Truckers Against Trafficking educates, equips, empowers people of the transportation industry to recognize trafficking and report it. Mm-hmm. I got involved with them because I was friends with one of their founders. Her name's Kyla. She still works there. She's actually my boss. And I was laid off during the pandemic, so I had nothing to do. And she said, hey, we're opening up this job position. I had done speaking for TAT before, sharing about that bus driver, sharing about how important it would be to have resources. And she said, I think you would be a good fit. I went through the application process. I had to give a presentation to them. And, you know, I've been there for about 2.5 years now, full time. And I have to say, I have grown so much as a person. I'm so valued there as a survivor. And it's really incredible to me what having a stable job does for you as a survivor, whether it's domestic violence or human trafficking like me. It's huge. It makes all the difference in the world to know that whatever happens tomorrow, I'm going to be okay, because now I know that I can provide for myself without selling myself. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And, you know, Ms. Sharon, when you mentioned your story about domestic violence, it's so similar to human trafficking in the mind games that the trafficker plays is the mind games that a domestic abuser plays. Mm-hmm. So I definitely feel a kinship with you of just, man, isn't it different when you don't have to walk on eggshells anymore?
It is. I mean, you get your life back. And, you know, and I think sometimes, actually, I was in it twice. I was married twice. The first time it was mental abuse. The second time it was physical abuse. And they're both equally bad, but part of me thinks the mental abuse is worse than the physical abuse.
I do.
Yeah. And so I think that's harder to recover from. And so I've never remarried again. For that reason. I just thought I'm not going to put myself in, which is kind of sad too, because I probably could have had a happy relationship. And I have good friends, I have good support system. And so that's why I wanted to become a mentor and a coach and give back and help people, because I know there's a lot of, it's hard to talk about. So women don't usually talk about it because they don't think anybody will understand. I always hated that term. Well, why don't they just leave? Kind of like you. Why don't you just get out of trafficking? Why don't you just tell somebody? Well, it's not that easy. Nope. And so I understand exactly how you feel, other than, you know, the actual.
Nope. I know you get it. Oh yeah,
I get it.
You know, and going back to Truckers Against Trafficking, what I'm really proud of is that their training, it's about a half-hour video. We ask companies to play it for their drivers, give out wallet cards, or download our app onto their phone so their drivers can keep that around them. And you know what? We've trained 1,500,000 drivers at this point.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, it works. People are interested in it. They're passionate about it. If you look out on trucks on the highway, definitely see if they have one of our bumper stickers, because it has the National Human Trafficking Hotline for the US, Canada. So, you know, it's just a powerful way for trucking companies to be able to say, hey, we support ending trafficking. We're going to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. So, I mean, I really enjoy it. I definitely did not know anything about the trucking or transportation industry when I started, that's for sure. But you know what? Now it has really opened my eyes to the fact that there are truck drivers everywhere. I mean, even if I think about how many times Not saying I shop on Amazon too much, but the Amazon drivers are now trained with the Truckers Against Trafficking material.
Oh,
And I
I
need
didn't
to
realize
ask,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I need to ask one of the drivers, hey, have you watched the video? I'm the girl in that video.
Well, I've been in transportation for about 35 years and or a little longer than that now. But I used to tell people, women, especially if their car broke down or whatever, if a truck driver stops to help you, I think you can trust them for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
Now, the industry has changed over the years. I'm not so sure I would be 100% with that right now because the industry has changed so much. But for the most part, drivers are good guys and women. There's a lot of women in trucking now too, so that makes it good. But so do you work with the truck stops as well?
We do. We do. So we ask the truck stops to train their employees, because what if a victim walks in and they need help? I really think that the truck stops are a critical role, and we actually have a few videos on our website. One, a survivor named Nikki talks about how she ran away from her trafficker and she ran into a TA truck stop and a manager helped her. And it's just a tangible example that, when you walk into a restroom, you might see a survivor. They may need help. And I know it could make us uncomfortable. I absolutely know that. But calling 911, that's not a hard ask for me.
Yeah.
I know people might feel, I'm going to say the wrong thing. Kindness is never the wrong thing. Start with, what's your name? Are you okay? Can I do something for you?
So do you get good response from 911?
We do. And we also train law enforcement. So, I went actually just about a year and a half ago to New Jersey with Truckers Against Trafficking, and I was originally from New Jersey, so I got to train the New Jersey State Police, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that it goes back to education. It's, making law enforcement in your area aware, hey, do you train about human trafficking? Here's some free videos from Truckers Against Trafficking, and we have a whole set of them for law enforcement. If you have a truck stop in your local area, hey, do you train about human trafficking? Did you know that you can get free posters, that you can get free materials from truckers? Just starting the conversation.
So are you having issues? I know we've got a lot of people coming across the border, and I know a lot of those children and adults are being trafficked by the cartel. So are you experiencing anything with that now?
I haven't heard direct statistics yet, but I'm sure that it's there. I think that it goes back to, I hope that enforcement on the borders are trained about human trafficking, and that they see it. So let's hope that the response is there, because that's just critical.
Yeah.
I don't know directly, but I know that it happens. And so, I'm going to trust and believe that we have the right resources in place, and I hope that those victims get it. I work directly with survivors. I do 2 support groups a week. One is for familial trafficking survivors, so family trafficking situations, and the other one is a curriculum that kind of walks the victims through how to heal from it. And so that's always fun. So if any of your listeners know a survivor who just needs extra support, I'm always happy to provide it. And, I think that the more we become aware of human trafficking and what to look for, we're going to see it a lot of places, like you're saying.
Yeah. So are you working with companies, large companies, especially trucking companies, with their HR departments?
Yep.
So they can make that part of their training program?
What I like to encourage people to do is to go to the Truckers Against Trafficking website, look and see on our training tab, you can type in a company and see what companies are training. And if your company that you're looking for isn't listed, go ahead and approach them. We have free materials and we will get anyone involved.
So do you need volunteers?
We do have a volunteer program. So when you were asking about the truck stops, one of the things that we ask people to do, if I gave you a list of truck stops, in your local area, I could send you the materials and you could go to those truck stops and say, hey, would you please put up these posters? Could you please, help Truckers Against Trafficking get the word out? And the response is really tremendous.
That's good news. I'm glad to hear that. And because I know a lot of the churches are involved now.
Mm-hmm.
I know my church has a program, and they go out and they go to motels and hotels, in the bad parts of town, and try to help people that they can tell,
Mm-hmm.
and then they bring them in for counseling. So there are a lot of organizations. So tell us what else we can do. What's the weakness that you're seeing that you're not getting response from?
I wouldn't say that it's a lack of response, but for churches particularly, we do have a video that is geared towards men on ending demand. And I think that we have to start talking about the people who purchase and talk about the effects of pornography. So I would love for men's groups to play those videos and to have honest conversation. I will definitely send you those resources.
Okay.
And then, I wouldn't say that we're struggling in one area or another, but if you have a bus company in your town and you want them to have posters on their buses, because, victims do take the bus. 54% of victims that leave their trafficking situation take a bus because it's affordable, because it's in their local area. So let's make sure that our buses are trained too.
Is there anything someone shouldn't do if they suspect? I mean, you don't want to scare somebody, but
you don't want to scare them. I would definitely say also no victim shaming. Well, you should know better.
Yeah.
If they know better, that's not the right tone. Condemnation and criticism doesn't get us very far. The victim, my goodness, I shamed myself more than anyone could ever shame me.
Yeah.
So what I would say is sometimes traffickers are around the victims. So just to be careful and to be wise and let the law enforcement do their job. Don't go into heroics. It's not that you're not the hero. You are, but equip yourself by calling 911, by doing what the police need you to do. They're going to want actionable information. If you see a vehicle, take down the license plate number, remember the date, remember the time, remember where you were, what the victim was wearing, and such thing. Those are all helpful things. If you can safely take a video or a picture of what you're seeing, super helpful, but we like to remember safety.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you think is important?
I think it would be tremendous if people watch the TAT training video. You can get a certificate that says you're a certified trucker against trafficking. It's free of charge. Just check out our website. There's so many things there.
So if you do this, I mean, I'm assuming, I know you said you have stickers that are on trucks. And so do the people that are being trafficked, do they recognize that? So they know
we
that's
actually had a case in California where a girl knocked on a vehicle at like 3 a.m. and there was a sticker on the cab and the truck driver said, here's the phone number. It's on my cab. Here, let's call this. And so it's just another way where the victim sees it. We're getting away from the word lot lizard. We're going to say that they are a human being worthy of dignity and grace. And so how do we approach them, giving them back their dignity?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the stickers on our personal cars or,
And all of our materials are free of charge. So if somebody wants a bumper sticker, we can send them a bumper sticker.
Okay. Well, you know what? I just really appreciate you coming on today. It's a hard subject to talk about, but it's a subject that needs to be talked about more and more. And so tell us again where people can reach out and speak to you and TAT if they want to get more involved.
So I would encourage them to go to our website, truckersagainsttrafficking.org. We have all of the information there. If you want to send an email, you can send an email to info@truckersagainsttrafficking.org. You can get in touch with me. You can request the bumper stickers or the wallet cards or posters. All of our materials are free of charge, but starting at the website is a great place.
Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. And we've come to an end. I wish we, hopefully you'll come back sometime and we'll discuss
I'd love
this
it.
more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Invite me
And
back.
all right, that's good. And for those that are listening today, if you have any questions, you can give us a call as well as Liz. And join us next time as we do our Ladies Leadership Coalition podcast.